Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. I'm Kelvin. This is going to be a short video where I go over the cooling duct that I designed for the O3 Air Unit for putting it inside FPV aircraft. This is a design that I worked on this summer. I did a lot of iterations on it trying to figure out the perfect design, at least for myself, to get the air unit to stay cool and not overheat. There's a lot of other designs out there, and you guys, by far this may not be the best one, but it works really good for me, and it may work good for you. So in this video, I'm going to take one of my aircraft, which would be the F-22, and I'm just going to kind of take it apart because it's kind of easy to take apart on that particular one, and show you how everything goes together, how it's assembled, all the hardware that I had to use to get it to work, and then in the description I'll also post links to places where you can go to get that. All right, so this is the canopy of the F-22, and that is the O3 Air Unit mounted in there. A couple things that I wanted to make sure I can do was to get to that SD card. So that took some thought in the design, and also to the USB in case I needed to update the firmware. So I just want to make sure that we can get to those things. So the parts that are used here, we got a 40 millimeter fan. So that's a 40 by 40 by 20 millimeter fan. And it's a 12 volt brushless fan. We also have some heat sinks. You can't see the heat sinks, but they go in here in the front right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull all of this stuff out. It's pretty easy to get out. We have 8 M2 screws right here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we have these right here on the Fpvdogfight Motionsic BAG Gimbal. So I'm going to take all these screws out, and all of this is going to come out, and then I'll kind of explain how everything went together. Okay, so on this design, I made it this way so that I can access everything without having to take this canopy off. So the canopy is permanently glued on there. And I made this little base here. So if you look here, you'll see this little square base. This is part of my design for the Motionsic BAG Gimbal. And it's very simple. You just take this little square once you print it, you lay it down on the bottom of the canopy, mark the line, cut it out, sink it in there, put some thin CA all the way around, and it'll be locked in place. And then to bolt the gimbal on, you have this bottom plate right here. You just run your screws and use the foam pads that come from Motionsic. And then this just slides in there, and you run the 4 screws on the outside. So you can take it in and out pretty easily. And then the wires go through this little channel right here. After I thought about it after the fact, you could probably just trim this off right here because I really don't think that's needed, and then you won't really have to worry about running the wires through that channel. So then the other thing we're going to look at is this is the antenna mount that I have on there. That antenna mount, you just mount it, you run the antenna through there like that, and then you would glue this base in there before you put the canopy back on. If you guys can look in there, it might be kind of hard to see, but that's that other part of the canopy base in there. I mean, not canopy, antenna base in there. And then this just pressure fits in there, and now you can have the antenna inside of the cockpit behind the gimbal. So that's the way that works. Now to mount the air unit, I have a couple different designs on there. I have this design here where you can just find a spot in the foam, kind of cut it out, glue these 2 little squares in, and then the air unit duct will just bolt to this with using M2 screws. Or I have another one that's like it looks kind of like a it's like a one-piece deal where it comes down, goes across, and then goes back here. I don't know what I would call it, but that's also in there as well, where you could just glue that piece down to something flat, and then you could mount the duct that way. Now, the way the air unit mounts to the duct is, you'll see here, it's kind of hard to see, but there's some small screws here, right? they're diagonal. So there's 2 screw points. So what you would do is you would take the original screws that came with the air unit out on 2 spots. And then once those screws are out, you would need to use M 1.6 by 10 millimeter screws. So oh, that's not it right here. Let me get the right one. So the thread pitch for the air unit is M 1.6, and it needs to be a 10 millimeter long screw. You can just find those on Amazon. They're pretty cheap. And then from there, like I said, you would take 2 screws out, and then you would 2 of the original air unit screws out, and then you would just screw through here into the air unit, and that will hold it down flat up against this flat up against this duct here. Now, if you look here, you can kind of see, let me get it close to the camera. You can kind of see those heat sinks, right? So it's got a total of 8 heat sinks on it. And these are the heat sinks that I'm using. I'll grab a couple here. So these are the heat sinks that I'm using. And these heat sinks are these heat sinks are 9 millimeters by 9 millimeters by 5 millimeters thick. You can find those on Amazon. They're really cheap. They have heat transfer tape already on the back. So you just peel off of this blue piece of clear plastic, and it'll just stick right on the top of the air unit. And what you want to do is when you position them on the air unit, you want them to be mounted to where the air can flow across the heat sinks. So what I do is I just take 4 of them and I stick them on the top just like this, and take another 4 and stick on the bottom. And when you do it, you can kind of look at the duct to make sure that they fit within that channel. So there's a channel down here, channel up here. And all this happening is that when this fan is blowing or sucking, because it actually, I've tested it both ways, either blowing or sucking air, and it works equally well either way. But what it's doing is just all the heat that's coming from the air unit is going to these heat sinks, and this fan is just pulling that air across that heat sink, which is just carrying that heat away from the unit, right? So that is how it works. And you can see here I take a little bit of tape. So this is just like some little cloth tape that I have. You can use any kind of tape you want, but I'll peel it up. And I just use this tape just to cover up all of the little gaps and cracks around the air unit and the duct, just to make sure that all the air that's being pulled is either being forced through the original holes in the side of the air unit or through the heat sinks right here and the holes in the back here. So that's the way it's designed. We're just trying to make sure we get all that heat out. So that's the basics of how it works. You know, this is my own little method. Like I said, it may not be the best method, but it's what works good for me. I've used the same method in all of my aircraft. I'll show you guys. Let me move this one to the side. Here's the canopy for the F-16. It's done almost exactly the same way. We have our square base here at the bottom where the gimbal comes out, and then here you can see where the air unit is, and this one has that little bracket that I was talking about. You can kind of see it here. You see how that bracket goes down, around, and up, and then it just screws to that. So, you know, I have 2 different options that works for, you know, 2 different type of ways of mounting it. And, you know, this is done exactly the same fan. And this one, in the case of the F-16, is blowing across. The F-22 is actually sucking. And I'll show you guys how I wound up doing the A-10. A-10 is very similar, same method. We got the square there. Everything screws in using a similar bracket for the cooling duct. Now, as far as powering this fan, it's a 12-volt fan. I did talk to someone on YouTube, through Messenger from the groups, and he was saying that he found some 24-volt fans that he tried and they worked really good. He gave me a part number. I don't remember what they were, but I'll try to find that and link that in the description as well. So if you guys are running a 6S system, you don't really have to worry about running that regulator if you find a 24-volt fan. But like I said, I've just used these 12-volt fans. I bought a pack of 4, so rather than buying new ones, I just use what I had. Now, if you run this fan, you will need a little small regulator. You can get those on Amazon as well, and you would want that regulator to bring your voltage down to 12 volts, so you can, you know, basically tee off, you know, some type of battery wire from your LiPo, and run that through that regulator, and that will bring the voltage down to 12 volts so you don't burn up the fan. So hopefully that explains how my gimbal setup is and how everything is mounted with the duct and it's, you know, how it's screwed together. So yeah, like I said, everything will be down in the description for the links to the files on Thingiverse, and also the links to the screws, the heat sinks, and the fans from Amazon. All right, guys, I hope this helps. And look forward to more videos like this coming in the future, where I'll kind of break down my FPV setups one part at a time. Thank you.